The conference room fell completely silent as Emma's hands shook while holding the thick envelope. Her father's lawyer had just finished reading the will, and the number he spoke made her dizzy. $5 billion. $5 billion. Across the mahogany table, Victoria, her husband's mistress, stood frozen, her mouth hanging open like a fish gasping for air. Then the scream came. It was the kind of scream that could shatter glass, pierce through walls, and echo in your nightmares forever. 5 billion! Victoria shrieked, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the leather chair. You left a billionaire. David, you absolute fool. Emma's soon-to-be ex-husband, David, had turned the color of old milk. He stumbled backward, knocking over his chair with a loud crash that made everyone jump. His eyes were so wide they looked like they might pop right out of his head. But here's the thing that made Emma's lips curl into the tiniest, most dangerous smile. Just 3 weeks ago, David had thrown divorce papers at her while she was 6 months pregnant with their baby. He had called her worthless. He had said she would never amount to anything. He had left her for Victoria, a woman who wore designer clothes and drove a sports car and promised him a better life. Now, as Victoria's screams filled the room and David looked like he might faint, Emma realized something powerful. Sometimes, the universe has a very strange sense of humor. But how did we get here? How did a simple girl who grew up eating peanut butter sandwiches and wearing hand-me-down clothes end up inheriting $5 billion? And why didn't she know her father was secretly one of the richest men in America? To understand this moment, we need to go back. Back to where it all started. Back to 3 months ago, when Emma's life was completely, totally, heartbreakingly different. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. And hit that subscribe button. This story is just getting started, and you won't believe what happens next. Emma Martinez lived in a small apartment on Maple Street. The kind of place where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbor's alarm clock every morning at 6 a.m. It wasn't fancy. The paint was peeling in the corners, and the refrigerator made a weird humming sound that kept her awake some nights. But it was home. Every morning, Emma would wake up at 5:30 a.m., even before the neighbor's alarm. She'd make herself a cup of cheap instant coffee, the kind that came in a big plastic container from the discount store, and sit by the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. She worked as a librarian at the Riverside Public Library. The pay wasn't great, just enough to cover rent, groceries, and maybe a movie once a month if she was lucky. But Emma loved her job. She loved the smell of old books, the quiet whisper of pages turning, and helping kids find stories that would make their eyes light up with wonder. Her husband, David, worked in sales at a big company downtown. At least, that's what he told her he was doing. These days, Emma wasn't so sure where David was most of the time. Their marriage had been happy once. Really, truly happy. When they first got married 4 years ago, David would bring her wildflowers he picked on his way home from work. He'd dance with her in their tiny kitchen while burning the pasta, because neither of them was a good cook. He'd call her Em and Sunshine, and make her laugh until her belly hurt. But then, slowly, things changed. It was like watching a flower wilt in fast forward. David started working late more often. He stopped bringing flowers. He stopped dancing. He barely looked at her during dinner, too busy scrolling through his phone with a secretive smile on his face. Emma tried to tell herself it was just stress from work. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You make excuses. You hope things will get better. Then, 2 months ago, Emma discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified and excited at the same time. A baby. A tiny human that would be half her and half David. Maybe, she thought, maybe this baby would bring back the David she fell in love with. Maybe they could be a real family. The day she told David, she had planned everything perfectly. She made his favorite dinner. Well, she tried to. The chicken was a little dry, but she'd made a nice salad too. She bought a tiny pair of baby socks, yellow ones with little ducks on them, and put them in a gift box. David, she said nervously, sliding the box across their small dining table. I have something to tell you. David barely looked up from his phone. Just open it. He opened the box slowly, staring at the tiny socks like they were alien objects he'd never seen before. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, he looked up at Emma, and the expression on his face made her blood run cold. There was no joy, no excitement, no love, just annoyance. "You're pregnant," he said flatly. "Yes." Emma tried to smile, tried to make this moment special despite his reaction. "We're going to have a baby, David. Isn't it wonderful?" David stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Wonderful? Emma, are you serious right now? We can barely pay our bills. This apartment is falling apart. And now you want to bring a baby into this mess." Emma felt like she'd been slapped. But I thought you wanted kids. We talked about. That was before," David shouted, running his hands through his hair. "That was when I thought things would be different." "What do you mean different?" David didn't answer. He just grabbed his jacket and walked out, slamming the door so hard that a picture frame fell off the wall and shattered on the floor. Emma stood in their empty apartment, one hand on her not yet showing belly, and cried until she had no more tears left. That was the beginning of the end. While Emma's marriage was crumbling, there was someone else in her life she hardly ever thought about. Her father, Richard Chen. Richard had left when Emma was just 5 years old. She had only a few foggy memories of him. A tall man with kind eyes who smelled like coffee and Old Spice cologne. He used to read her bedtime stories, she remembered. Stories about princesses and dragons and magical kingdoms. Then one day he was just gone. Her mother, Sarah, had been heartbroken but never bitter. "Your father had to go away," she told little Emma, tucking her into bed. "But he loves you very much. Never forget that." "Why did he have to go?" Emma had asked, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices," her mother had said softly. "But someday you'll understand." Emma never did understand. As she grew up, she stopped asking about her father. Her mother worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night, to give Emma a good life. They didn't have much money, but they had each other. That was enough. Richard would send a birthday card every year like clockwork. Just a simple card with "Happy Birthday, Emma," written in neat handwriting, and a check for $100. Never a phone call, never a visit, just the card. When Emma turned 18 and was heading to college, the card stopped coming. She figured he'd finally moved on, forgotten about the daughter he'd left behind so many years ago. She was wrong. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon at the library when everything started to change. Emma was 6 months pregnant now, and her baby bump was getting harder to hide. Some days, the baby would kick, and Emma would stop whatever she was doing just to feel that tiny little foot pushing against her hand. Those were the moments that made everything worth it. Even David's coldness, even the loneliness, even the fear of raising a baby alone. Because yes, she was going to be alone. David had made that perfectly clear. She was organizing the children's section, humming softly to herself, when she noticed a man in an expensive-looking suit standing near the entrance. He was scanning the library like he was looking for something specific. Or someone. The man walked directly toward Emma. He was probably in his 50s, with silver hair and glasses that made him look very official and important. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Are you Emma Martinez?" Formerly Emma Chen. Emma's heart started beating faster. Strangers in fancy suits don't usually come looking for librarians unless something is very, very wrong. "Yes," she said slowly. "Can I help you?" The man glanced around at the people studying at nearby tables. "Is there somewhere private we could talk?" I'm working right now. Maybe you could come back during my lunch break." "I'm afraid this can't wait, Mrs. Martinez." The man's face was serious, but not unkind. "It's about your father, Richard Chen." Emma's mouth went dry. "What about him?" "Perhaps we should sit down," the man said gently. They went to a small study room in the back of the library. Emma's hands were shaking as she sat down. The man sat across from her and pulled out a business card. Mr. James Patterson, Sr., Partner, Patterson and Associates Legal Firm. A lawyer. This man was a lawyer. "Mrs. Martinez," Mr. Patterson said softly. I'm very sorry to inform you that your father, Richard Chen, passed away 2 weeks ago. The words hung in the air like smoke. Emma stared at him, not quite processing what she just heard. My father is dead? I'm so sorry. He had a heart attack in his office. It was very sudden. He didn't suffer. Emma didn't know how to feel. How do you mourn someone you barely knew? Someone who had been absent from your life for more than 20 years? She felt sad. Yes, but also confused and strangely numb. Why are you telling me this? She asked quietly. Why didn't anyone contact me sooner? Your father's wishes were very specific, Mr. Patterson said. He requested that his funeral be private, and that you be notified only after certain arrangements were made. Arrangements? Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Martinez, I need to ask you some questions. Have you been in contact with your father at all over the past few years? No. I haven't seen him since I was 5. He used to send birthday cards, but even those stopped years ago. Did he ever tell you anything about his work? About what he did for a living? Emma shook her head. I don't know anything about him. My mother never really talked about it, and I was too young to remember. Mr. Patterson nodded slowly, like he'd expected this answer. Mrs. Martinez, what I'm about to tell you might come as quite a shock. Emma laughed nervously. More shocking than finding out my absent father just died? Yes, Mr. Patterson said seriously. Much more shocking. He pulled out a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Emma opened it with trembling hands. Inside were documents. Legal documents with lots of big words and official stamps. But one word jumped out at her, appearing over and over again in the papers. Billions. I don't understand, Emma whispered. What is this? Mrs. Martinez, Mr. Patterson said slowly. Your father was Richard Chen, founder and CEO of Chen Technologies. Have you heard of it? Emma's brain felt like it was moving through thick mud. Chen Technologies? The computer company? Not just computers. Software, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, cybersecurity. Chen Technologies is one of the largest tech companies in the world. Emma's mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. Chen Technologies was huge. She'd seen their logo everywhere, on computers, on apps, in commercials. Everyone knew Chen Technologies. My father owned that company? She said in disbelief. He founded it 30 years ago in his garage, Mr. Patterson explained. He built it from nothing into an empire worth hundreds of billions of dollars. But that's impossible. We were poor. My mother worked 2 jobs just to pay rent. If my father was rich, why didn't he? She couldn't finish the sentence. The questions were piling up too fast in her mind. Your father had his reasons for keeping his distance, Mr. Patterson said carefully. Reasons that will become clearer when we read his will. But Mrs. Martinez, I need you to understand something important. Your father never stopped thinking about you. Every birthday card he sent wasn't just a card. He was letting you know he was still there, still watching over you from afar. Emma felt tears burning in her eyes. If he loved me so much, why did he leave? Why did he let my mother struggle? Why didn't he ever call? Those are questions I can't answer, Mr. Patterson said gently. But what I can tell you is this: your father left specific instructions in his will. Instructions that involve you directly. What kind of instructions? Mr. Patterson closed his briefcase and stood up. The formal reading of the will is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. I need you to be there, Mrs. Martinez. It's extremely important. Why? What's in the will? Mr. Patterson gave her a small, mysterious smile. Let's just say your life is about to change in ways you cannot possibly imagine. Emma walked home from the library in a daze that day. Her father was dead. Her father, who she barely knew, who had been secretly running a billion-dollar company this whole time, was gone. And now there was going to be a reading of his will. She wanted to talk to someone about it. She wanted to share this crazy, impossible news with someone who would hold her and tell her everything would be okay. She wanted to talk to David. But when Emma walked into their apartment that evening, she found David packing a suitcase. What are you doing? Emma asked, her hand instinctively going to her belly. David didn't even look at her. He just kept throwing clothes into the suitcase. Shirts, pants, socks, everything jumbled together in a messy pile. David! Finally, he stopped. He turned to face her, and the coldness in his eyes made Emma take a step backward. I'm leaving, Emma. The words were simple. 3 words, but they felt like a punch to the gut. What do you mean, leaving? I mean, I'm done. I'm done with this apartment. I'm done with this life. He zipped up the suitcase with a harsh sound. I'm done with you. Emma felt the room spinning. But we're having a baby. Your baby. That's your problem, not mine. How can you say that? Emma's voice cracked. This is your child. Is it? David said cruelly. Are you sure about that? Emma gasped like she'd been burned. How dare you? How dare you suggest? I don't care, David interrupted. I don't care whose kid it is. I don't want any part of this. Why? Emma felt tears streaming down her face. What happened to you? You used to love me. We were happy. David laughed, but there was no humor in it. Happy? Emma, we were never happy. We were just poor and stupid and pretending everything was fine. That's not true. I met someone else, David said flatly. The words hung in the air like poison gas. You? What? Her name is Victoria. She's smart, successful, beautiful. She has her own business. She drives a Porsche. David stopped himself, but the damage was already done. How long? Emma whispered. How long have you been cheating on me? Does it matter? Yes, Emma screamed. Yes, it matters. I'm your wife. I'm carrying your baby. Don't make this dramatic, David said coldly, picking up his suitcase. We both know this marriage has been dead for a while. I'm just finally being honest about it. Please, Emma begged, hating how desperate she sounded. Please don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to counseling. We can. It's too late. David walked to the door. My lawyer will send you divorce papers. Sign them. And what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to take care of a baby by myself? David shrugged, like he was talking about the weather instead of abandoning his pregnant wife. That sounds like a you problem. Then he was gone. Emma stood in the middle of their apartment, her apartment now, she supposed, and felt something inside her break. Not her heart. That had already been shattered weeks ago. No, this was something deeper. This was the breaking of every dream she'd ever had about family, about love, about happily ever after. She slid down against the wall and cried. She cried for the marriage that was over. She cried for the baby who would grow up without a father. She cried for the girl she used to be, the one who believed in fairy tales and true love. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard Mr. Patterson's words echoing. Your life is about to change in ways you cannot possibly imagine. Emma didn't know it yet, but he was right. Everything was about to change. 3 days later, while Emma was eating cereal for dinner, because she was too heartbroken to cook, there was a knock on her door. It was a courier with an envelope. Inside were divorce papers. Emma read through them with shaking hands. The legal language was confusing, full of words like irretrievable breakdown, and division of assets, and custody arrangements. David wanted nothing. He was signing away all rights to the baby. He wanted no custody, no visitation, nothing. He was even willing to give up his claim to their apartment. Not that it was worth much anyway. It was like he was erasing her from his life completely. There was a sticky note attached to the papers in David's handwriting. Just sign them, Emma. Make this easy for both of us. Emma wanted to crumple up the papers and throw them in the trash. She wanted to call David and scream at him. She wanted to do something, anything, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain she was feeling. But instead, she just sat there, one hand on her belly where her baby was growing, and stared at the papers. It's okay, she whispered to her unborn child. We don't need him. We'll be okay on our own. She didn't sign the papers that night. She couldn't bring herself to do it yet. Signing them would make it real, final, over. Instead, She put them in a drawer and tried to forget about them. The 3 weeks between Mr. Patterson's visit and the will reading were the longest of Emma's life. She went to work every day, checking out books and helping patrons, pretending like her world wasn't falling apart. Her co-workers noticed she seemed sad, but Emma just told them she was tired from the pregnancy. At night, she would lie in bed, feeling her baby kick, and wonder about her father. What had he been like? Why had he really left? And most importantly, why had he kept his wealth a secret from her and her mother all those years? Emma's mother had passed away from cancer 2 years ago. That loss had been devastating. At least with her mother, Emma had said goodbye. At least she'd had time to tell her mom how much she loved her. With her father, there was nothing. Just questions and emptiness and a strange lawyer telling her to show up to a will reading. Part of Emma was angry at Richard Chen. How dare he abandon her for all those years and then suddenly die and force her to deal with all of this? How dare he play father from a distance, sending birthday cards like that was enough? But another part of Emma, the little girl inside who had once loved her daddy and cried when he left, was just sad. Sad that she would never get to know him. Sad that her baby would never meet his grandfather. The divorce papers sat in her drawer, and signed. Emma knew she should sign them and move on. But something held her back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was denial. Or maybe it was the tiny voice in the back of her mind whispering, "Wait, just wait. Something big is coming." Finally, the day arrived. Emma put on the nicest dress she owned, a simple navy blue one that still fit over her pregnant belly, and took 2 buses across town to the Patterson and Associates law office. The building was in the fancy part of the city, where everything was made of glass and steel and looked expensive. Emma felt completely out of place walking through the marble lobby in her cheap dress and worn shoes. Mr. Patterson met her at the elevator. "Mrs. Martinez, thank you for coming. How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Emma admitted, "and confused. I still don't understand why I'm here." "All will become clear," Mr. Patterson said as they rode the elevator to the top floor. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to warn you. There will be other people at this reading." "What other people?" "Your father's business associates. A few board members from Chen Technologies. And..." Mr. Patterson paused. "Your husband." Emma stopped walking. "David? Why would David be there?" "Technically, he's still your husband until the divorce is finalized. He has a legal right to be present at proceedings involving your assets." "I don't have any assets." Mr. Patterson gave her that same mysterious smile from before. "Don't you?" They reached a large conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Inside were about a dozen people in expensive suits, all talking in low voices and looking very important. And there, in the corner, was David. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood a woman who looked like she'd walked out of a fashion magazine. She had long blonde hair, perfect makeup, and a designer dress that probably cost more than Emma's entire wardrobe. She was holding David's hand and laughing at something he'd whispered in her ear. "This must be Victoria." When David saw Emma, his expression changed from smug satisfaction to something almost like nervousness. But Victoria just looked Emma up and down with barely hidden contempt, like she was examining a bug. "Everyone, please take your seats," Mr. Patterson announced. "We're about to begin." Emma sat down at the large table, her heart pounding. David and Victoria sat on the opposite side. Emma could hear Victoria whispering to David, but she couldn't make out the words. Mr. Patterson opened a folder and pulled out a thick document. "We are here for the reading of the last will and testament of Richard Chen, dated February 14th of this year. I, James Patterson, am the executor of this will and will now read its contents." The room fell silent. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat and began to read. "I, Richard Chen, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. First, to the board of Chen Technologies. I leave the company in your capable hands. I trust you will continue to innovate and lead the industry as we have for the past 30 years. Several of the suit-wearing people nodded seriously. Second, to my staff and employees. I have established a fund of $500 million to be distributed as bonuses and benefits to ensure your continued loyalty and hard work. $500 million. Emma's brain couldn't even process a number that large. Third, and most importantly, Mr. Patterson looked up at Emma. To my daughter, Emma Chen Martinez. Everyone in the room turned to stare at Emma. She felt her face go hot. I know I have been absent from your life, Mr. Patterson read. I know I have failed you as a father. There are reasons, complicated, painful reasons why I had to stay away. But please know that not a day went by when I didn't think of you. Not a day when I didn't watch from afar, making sure you were safe and happy. Emma felt tears building in her eyes. You are my only child, my only family. And so, to you, Emma, I leave the entirety of my personal fortune. Cash, investments, properties, and stocks in Chen Technologies totaling. Mr. Patterson paused dramatically. $5.3 billion. For exactly 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody blinked. The number hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. $5.3 billion. Then, all at once, the room erupted into chaos. What? David jumped out of his chair so fast that it toppled backward with a crash. $5 billion? One of the board members gasped. But the loudest sound came from Victoria. The scream that would echo in Emma's memory forever. $5 billion? She shrieked. Her voice so high-pitched it could have broken glass. You left a billionaire. David, you absolute fool. Victoria turned on David like a wild animal, her perfectly manicured nails clawing at his expensive suit jacket. Do you have any idea what you've done? $5 billion. And you threw her away like garbage. David's face had turned from white to green. He looked like he was going to throw up right there on the conference room table. His hands were shaking. His mouth was opening and closing, but no words came out. Emma just sat there, frozen, staring at Mr. Patterson. $5 billion. The number was so huge it didn't feel real. It felt like a joke, like someone was going to jump out and yell, "Surprise!" and tell her it was all a prank. This can't be real, Emma whispered. I assure you, Mrs. Martinez, it is very real, Mr. Patterson said calmly, though even he looked a bit shaken by the room's reaction. Your father was one of the wealthiest men in America, and now, all of that wealth belongs to you. But I don't understand. Why me? Why not give it to charity or to the company or... Because you're his daughter, Mr. Patterson said simply. And he loved you, even from a distance. Victoria was still screaming. David, you idiot. You left her for me. I have a business. I have a Porsche. But she has $5 billion. Do you understand numbers? Do you understand what you've done? Victoria, please just calm down. David tried to grab her arm, but she yanked it away. Don't touch me. Victoria's face was red with fury. I thought I was upgrading. I thought I was getting someone with ambition, someone who would amount to something. But instead, I got the world's biggest loser who divorced a billionaire. I didn't know. David shouted desperately. How was I supposed to know? Maybe by not being a cheating, selfish, horrible excuse for a human being. Victoria grabbed her designer handbag and turned toward the door. We are done, David. Finished. Over. I don't date stupid people. She stormed out of the conference room, her high heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. The sound got quieter and quieter until finally, there was silence. David stood there, looking like his entire world had just collapsed, which Emma supposed it kind of had. Slowly, very slowly, David turned to look at Emma. He said, his voice shaking. Emma, I don't, Emma said quietly. But I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about any of this. Would it have mattered? Emma asked, and she was surprised by how calm her voice sounded. If you had known, would you have stayed? Or would you have just been nicer about leaving? David opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. The divorce papers, David said suddenly, his eyes lighting up like he'd just thought of something brilliant. You haven't signed them yet, right? Emma, we can work this out. We can fix this. The baby, I was wrong about the baby. I want to be a father. I want to be there for our family. Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and she saw him clearly for the first time in years. This man who had thrown divorce papers at her 3 weeks ago, who had called her worthless, who had abandoned her when she needed him most, who had told her that their baby was her problem. Now he wanted to work it out because of money. Mr. Patterson, Emma said, turning away from David. If I'm understanding correctly, this money is mine? Only mine. That is correct, Mr. Patterson confirmed. The will specifically states that the inheritance goes to Emma Chen Martinez, and to no one else. Even if you were still married, your husband would have no legal claim to any of it. Good, Emma said. Then I have a question. How fast can I finalize my divorce? David's face fell. Emma, please. How fast? Emma repeated, ignoring David completely. If both parties are willing to sign and there are no disputes over assets or custody, Mr. Patterson said, we could have it finalized within a week. Perfect. Emma stood up, even though her legs felt wobbly. I'll sign the papers today. Emma, don't do this, David begged. We can get past this. I made mistakes. I was confused. But I love you. I've always loved you. Emma laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when something is so ridiculous, so absurd, that you can't help it. You love me? You love me now? How convenient. Emma picked up her purse. You know what, David? You're right about one thing. This is your problem now. Because I'm going to sign those papers. I'm going to raise my baby alone. Just like you wanted. And you're going to live the rest of your life knowing that you had something good, something real, and you threw it away because you thought you could do better. But the baby. You signed away your rights to this baby, Emma said coldly. You made it very clear that you wanted nothing to do with us. So guess what? You got your wish. Congratulations. David's face crumpled. He actually started crying. Real tears rolling down his cheeks. Please, Emma. Please don't do this. I'm begging you. Why? Emma asked. Because you suddenly care about me? Or because you suddenly care about $5 billion? David didn't answer. He couldn't. Emma turned to Mr. Patterson. Can we go somewhere private? I have a lot of questions, and I'd like to learn about my father's will without an audience. Of course, Mrs. Martinez. Follow me. As Emma walked out of the conference room, she could hear David sobbing behind her. Part of her, a very small, very stupid part, felt sorry for him. But the rest of her felt free. Mr. Patterson led Emma to a smaller, private office with comfortable chairs and a view of the city. He poured her a glass of water and sat down across from her. I imagine you have many questions, he said gently. So many, Emma admitted. I don't even know where to start. Mr. Patterson, why did my father leave? Why did he stay away all those years? Mr. Patterson sighed deeply. Your father left a letter for you. He wanted me to give it to you after the will was read. Would you like to see it? Emma nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Mr. Patterson pulled out an envelope from his desk drawer. It was cream-colored, expensive-looking paper, with Emma written on the front in handwriting that Emma vaguely remembered from her childhood. Her hands shook as she opened it. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye in person. I'm sorry for so many things. You deserve to know the truth. All of it. When you were 5 years old, I received a threat. A serious threat from very dangerous people. They found out that Chen Technologies was working on revolutionary software that could change the world and make whoever controlled it incredibly powerful. These people, criminals honestly, threatened to hurt you and your mother if I didn't hand over the technology. They made it very clear what they would do to my family if I refused. I had two choices. Give them what they wanted and put the world in danger, or protect my work and protect you by staying away. So I left. I filed for divorce. I kept my distance. I let your mother tell you whatever story she thought was best. And I paid child support through anonymous channels so these people wouldn't connect your mother back to me. It broke my heart every single day. Watching you grow up from afar, seeing photos that private investigators sent me, reading report cards and school papers without you knowing I was watching. It was torture, but it kept you safe. I sent birthday cards because I couldn't help myself. I needed you to know, in some small way, that I was still thinking of you, that I hadn't forgotten. The threat ended 5 years ago when the FBI arrested the entire organization. But by then, you were an adult. You had your own life. Your mother had passed away. I was a stranger to you. What right did I have to suddenly appear and disrupt your life with the truth? What right did I have to ask for your forgiveness after abandoning you for so many years? So I stayed away. But I never stopped loving you, Emma. Not for 1 second. The money I'm leaving you isn't an apology. Money can't fix what I broke. But I hope it can give you security, freedom, and opportunities. I hope it can give your child, my grandchild, a better life than I could give you. Be careful who you trust now that you're wealthy. People will come out of nowhere claiming to be your friend, your advisor, your savior. Trust Mr. Patterson. He's been my lawyer for 30 years and is one of the few truly honest men I've ever known. I love you, Emma. I always have. I always will. I'm sorry I couldn't be the father you deserved. Forever yours, Dad. Emma finished reading the letter and immediately burst into tears. Big, ugly, sobbing tears that made her mascara run down her cheeks in black rivers. He was protecting me, she cried. All those years, he was protecting me. Mr. Patterson handed her a box of tissues. Your father was a complicated man, Mrs. Martinez, but he loved you very much. That was never in question. My mother, Emma gasped between sobs. Did she know? Did she know the real reason he left? Yes, Mr. Patterson said gently. Your father told her everything before he left. That's why she never spoke badly of him. She understood what he was sacrificing. Emma cried harder. Her poor mother, carrying that secret her whole life. Working 2 jobs, struggling to make ends meet, all while knowing that Emma's father was a billionaire who couldn't help them because he was keeping them safe. Why didn't she tell me after he died? Emma asked. Your father made her promise not to. He didn't want you to know unless something happened to him. He didn't want you to spend your life waiting for a father who might never be able to come back. Emma clutched the letter to her chest, crying for the father she'd never known, for the sacrifice he'd made, for the love he'd carried silently for so many years, and for the grandmother her baby would never meet, and the grandfather who had died before knowing he would have a grandchild. I forgive him, Emma whispered. I forgive him. Over the next hour, Mr. Patterson explained everything to Emma. The $5 billion wasn't just sitting in a bank account. It was spread across multiple investments. Real estate properties all over the world, stocks in various companies, art collections, vintage cars, and yes, a lot of cash too. You own a penthouse in New York, Mr. Patterson explained. A beach house in Malibu. A villa in Italy. Your father acquired properties everywhere he traveled. Emma's head was spinning. I own a villa in Italy? Among other things. Now, Mrs. Martinez, we need to discuss practical matters. This much money requires careful management. I recommend we set up a meeting with financial advisors who can... Wait, Emma interrupted. Can I ask you something? In the letter, my father said to trust you. Can I? Can I really trust you? Mr. Patterson smiled sadly. Your father asked me that same question 30 years ago when he first hired me. I told him then what I'll tell you now. I don't need your money, Mrs. Martinez. I'm already wealthy enough. What I value is integrity. You can trust me to always tell you the truth and to always act in your best interests. You have my word. Emma studied his face. Her father had trusted this man for 3 decades. Her father, who had been paranoid enough to stay away from his own family for years, had trusted James Patterson. Okay, Emma said. I trust you. So, what do I do now? I'm a librarian. I'm 6 months pregnant. I have no idea how to be a billionaire. First, Mr. Patterson said, you don't have to quit your job unless you want to. The money will be there whether you work or not. Second, I suggest you take some time to process all of this before making any major decisions. And third, he pulled out a folder. These are the divorce papers your husband sent you. Would you like me to look them over? Emma pulled the crumpled papers out of her purse. She'd been carrying them everywhere, unable to decide what to do. Mr. Patterson read through them quickly, his eyebrows raising higher and higher. Mrs. Martinez, your husband is essentially walking away with nothing and giving you everything. No alimony, no custody, no visitation rights. He's even giving you the apartment. He thought I was worthless, Emma said quietly. He thought he was doing me a favor by not taking anything from me. Would you like me to have him sign a more comprehensive agreement? Perhaps one that ensures he can never claim any rights to your inheritance. Is that necessary? You said the inheritance is only mine. It is. But given your husband's behavior today, I think it's wise to be cautious. Mr. Patterson's voice was kind but firm. People do strange things when money is involved. I'd like to protect you and your child from any future claims. Emma thought about David's crying face in the conference room, his desperate begging, the way he'd suddenly wanted to be a father when $5 billion was on the line. Yes, she said firmly. Draw up whatever papers you need. I want this divorce finalized as quickly and completely as possible. I'll have new documents prepared by tomorrow. Oh, and Mrs. Martinez? I should mention that your husband has been calling my office repeatedly for the past hour. He's left 17 voicemails. I don't want to talk to him. I understand. Would you like me to handle all communication with him from now on? Please. Mr. Patterson made a note on his legal pad. Consider it done. Now, there's one more thing we need to discuss. Your father left detailed instructions about his funeral. He wanted it to be private, just you if you wish to attend. It's scheduled for this Saturday at Greenwood Cemetery. A funeral. For a father she barely remembered but now understood had loved her deeply. I'll be there, Emma said softly. By the time Emma left Mr. Patterson's office, it was evening. She took the bus home, her last bus ride. She realized, though she didn't know it yet, when she walked into her tiny apartment, she felt like she was seeing it for the first time. The peeling paint, the crooked cabinet doors, the refrigerator that hummed too loudly. This morning, this had been her entire world. Now, she owned mansions in 3 countries. Her phone started buzzing. Text message after text message. David, Emma, please call me. We need to talk. David, I know you're angry, but we can work through this. David, think about our baby. Don't you want our child to have a father? David, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Please give me another chance. David, Emma, answer me. She blocked his number. Then Victoria's number popped up. How had Victoria even gotten her number? Victoria, you manipulative witch. You knew about this money all along, didn't you? Victoria, you trapped David with a fake pregnancy just to get his money, and now you're stealing a fortune that should be shared with him. Victoria, enjoy your blood money. I hope it makes you happy. You gold digging. Emma blocked her too. Then her phone rang. An unknown number. Hesitantly, Emma answered. Hello, Mrs. Martinez. This is Channel 7 News. We heard about your inheritance and we'd love to do a story about. Emma hung up. How did the news already know? She realized, with creeping horror, that this was going to be her life now. Everyone would know. Everyone would want something from her. Her phone rang again. Another reporter. And again. A person claiming to be her second cousin. Emma didn't have any cousins. And again. Someone offering financial management services. Finally, Emma turned off her phone completely. She sat on her ratty couch, one hand on her pregnant belly, and tried to process everything that had happened in the past few hours. This morning, she'd been Emma Martinez. Pregnant, broke, abandoned, alone. Tonight, she was Emma Martinez. Pregnant, billionaire, still abandoned in a way, but definitely not alone anymore. Because suddenly, everyone in the world wanted to be her friend. Well, baby, she whispered to her bump. Our life just got very, very complicated. The baby kicked, as if to say, I know, Mom. I know. Saturday morning came too quickly. Emma wore a simple black dress. Not the designer kind that Victoria would wear, just a plain one from Target that fit over her belly. She took a taxi to Greenwood Cemetery. Mr. Patterson had offered to send a car, but Emma wasn't ready for that kind of luxury yet. The funeral was exactly as her father had wanted. Small, private, and quiet. There were only 5 people there. Emma, Mr. Patterson, a priest, and 2 elderly people who introduced themselves as Emma's paternal grandparents. "We didn't know about you," her grandmother said, crying and hugging Emma tightly. "Richard never told us he had a daughter. He was protecting you, protecting all of us. But now that we know, we hope you'll let us be part of your life." Emma, who had thought she had no family left in the world, found herself crying and hugging these strangers who were her family. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, please." They buried Richard Chen in a beautiful spot under an oak tree. The priest said some words about love and sacrifice and faith. Emma's grandmother sang an old hymn in a wavering voice, and Emma stood there, holding a single white rose, saying goodbye to the father she'd never really known. "Thank you," she whispered as she dropped the rose onto the casket. "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for loving me. I understand now. I forgive you. And I promise I'll make you proud." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves of the oak tree, and Emma could almost imagine it was her father, telling her that everything would be okay. On Monday morning, Emma met Mr. Patterson at his office to sign the divorce papers. David was there too, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red and puffy. His expensive suit was wrinkled. He looked broken. "Emma," he said as soon as he saw her, "please, just hear me out." "Mr. Patterson," Emma said calmly, "are the papers ready?" "Yes, Mrs. Martinez. I've prepared a comprehensive separation agreement. Mr. Martinez has agreed to all terms." David flinched at the word agreed. Emma suspected that Mr. Patterson had been very, very firm about what David would be signing. They sat down at opposite ends of the conference table. Mr. Patterson laid out the papers and explained each section. "This agreement states that David Martinez relinquishes all rights and claims to any assets, inheritances, or properties belonging to Emma Chen Martinez. He waives all rights to spousal support, child support claims, and parental rights to the unborn child. He agrees to never contact Emma or her child unless expressly invited to do so. Any violation of these terms results in immediate legal consequences. Do you both understand?" "Yes," Emma said firmly. "Emma, please." David tried one more time. "Just think about. Do you understand the terms, Mr. Martinez?" Mr. Patterson asked coldly. David slumped in his chair. "Yes." "Then please sign here, here, and here." Emma watched David sign away everything. With each signature, she felt lighter, freer. When it was her turn, Emma picked up the pen. She paused for just a moment, thinking about the girl she used to be. The girl who believed that David was her happily ever after. That girl was gone now. Emma signed her name with steady hands. "Congratulations," Mr. Patterson said. "You are now officially divorced." Emma stood up to leave, but David called out one last time. "Emma, I know I don't deserve it, but can you at least tell me one thing? When you found out about the money, did you feel even a little bit happy that I left? Did you think I got what I deserved?" Emma turned to look at him. Really look at him. "You want to know the truth, David?" "No, I didn't feel happy. Because no amount of money can make up for what you did. You didn't just leave me. You abandoned your child. You threw away years of marriage like they meant nothing. You made me feel worthless. I know, and But," Emma continued, "you also did me a favor, because if you'd stayed, I would have spent the rest of my life with a man who only loved me when it was convenient. A man who only valued me when I was valuable to him. So thank you, David. Thank you for showing me who you really are before it was too late." Emma walked to the door, then paused. "Oh, and David? I hope one day you find someone who loves you the way I used to. Someone who would have stood by you through anything. And I hope, when you find that person, you're smart enough not to throw them away." Then she left. She didn't look back. Emma stood in the nursery of her new home. A beautiful but not too huge house in a quiet neighborhood with good schools, and rocked her baby daughter gently. Little Sarah Chen Martinez, named after Emma's mother, was 2 weeks old, with tiny perfect fingers and her grandfather's eyes. "Look, baby girl," Emma whispered, holding Sarah up to the window. "See that sunrise? Your grandfather used to say that every sunrise is a promise. A promise that no matter how dark yesterday was, today brings new light." Sarah yawned, completely unimpressed by the philosophical sunrise discussion. Emma laughed and kissed her daughter's soft head. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Emma had hired a team of financial advisors, all carefully vetted by Mr. Patterson. She'd learned about investments and charity foundations and trust funds. She'd set up college funds for 100 kids in her old neighborhood. She'd donated $20 million to the library system. She'd established the Sarah Chun Memorial Scholarship for single mothers going back to school. And she'd kept her job at the library. Because yes, she was a billionaire now, but she was still Emma. And Emma loved books and helping people find stories. Her grandparents visited every weekend, spoiling baby Sarah with toys and love and stories about Richard Chun. The good parts, the funny parts, the human parts that Emma had never gotten to know. David had tried to call, multiple times, but Emma had blocked his number. There was nothing left to say. She'd heard through the grapevine that Victoria had left him immediately and was now dating a tech CEO. David was living with his parents and working at a car dealership. Emma felt nothing when she heard this. Not satisfaction, not pity. Nothing. That chapter of her life was closed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Patterson. "Board meeting next week. They want to meet the largest shareholder of Chen Technologies. Are you ready?" Emma looked at her sleeping daughter and smiled. "Yes, I'm ready." Because Emma had learned something important over the past 6 months. Money didn't change who she was. The billions of dollars sitting in her bank accounts didn't make her any smarter or better or more worthy than the broke, pregnant librarian she'd been before. What changed was her understanding of her own strength. She had survived betrayal. She had survived loss. She had survived heartbreak and loneliness and fear. And she had done it all while carrying a baby, working full-time, and keeping her heart open enough to forgive a father she'd never known and accept grandparents who were strangers. If she could do all that, she could do anything. "You know what, baby Sarah?" Emma whispered. "Your daddy thought I was worthless. His girlfriend thought I was pathetic. But they were wrong." Sarah made a little cooing sound. "I'm not worthless because I have money now. I was never worthless. Not when I was broke. Not when I was working 2 jobs like your grandmother. Not when I was alone and scared and pregnant." Emma sat in the rocking chair and began to hum a lullaby her mother used to sing. "People will try to tell you your worth based on what you have, baby girl. Your clothes, your car, your bank account. But that's not where worth comes from. Worth comes from here." Emma touched Sarah's tiny chest, right over her heart. "It comes from how you treat people, how you face hard times, how you keep going even when everything is falling apart." Sarah was fully asleep now, breathing softly, completely at peace in her mother's arms. Emma looked around the nursery, painted a soft lavender color, filled with books and toys and everything a baby could need. Through the window, she could see the sunrise painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. A new day, a new beginning. "Your grandfather left us a lot of money," Emma whispered. "But the real gift he gave me was understanding. Understanding that love sometimes means sacrifice. That protection sometimes looks like absence. That the people who truly care about you will do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Emma stood up and placed Sarah gently in her crib, tucking her in with a soft blanket. "And someday, when you're old enough, I'll tell you about your daddy. I won't lie to you about him. He wasn't evil. He was just weak. He made bad choices. And yes, he missed out on knowing you because of those choices. That was his loss, not yours." Emma turned on the baby monitor and walked to the door, pausing to look back at her sleeping daughter one more time. "Sweet dreams, my little one. When you wake up, we're gonna have breakfast, read some books, and maybe visit Grandma and Grandpa. Just a normal, ordinary day." Emma smiled. A normal, ordinary day in our extraordinary life. She closed the door softly and walked downstairs, where her future was waiting. And somewhere, somehow, she liked to think her father was watching. And he was proud. The conference room was packed with reporters, cameras, and flashing lights. Emma stood at the podium, 1-year-old Sarah on her hip, and smiled at the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," she said confidently. "Today, I'm proud to announce the launch of the Richard Chen Foundation for Family Protection. This foundation will provide resources, legal support, and safe housing for families facing threats from organized crime. My father spent years protecting his family in silence. This foundation will make sure no one else has to face that kind of fear alone." The reporters erupted with questions. "Mrs. Martinez, how much are you donating to this cause? Will you remain as CEO of Chen Technologies? What about your ex-husband? Does he have any comment?" Emma laughed. "One question at a time, please. Yes, I'm donating $1 billion to start. Yes, I'm staying as CEO because my father built something amazing and I want to honor that. And no, my ex-husband has no comment because he has nothing to do with my life anymore." Sarah grabbed the microphone and babbled into it, making everyone laugh. "And yes," Emma added, grinning, "my daughter will be joining me at all future press conferences. She's already a better public speaker than I am." After the press conference, Emma walked outside where Mr. Patterson was waiting by the car. "You did wonderfully, Mrs. Martinez," he said proudly. "I had a good teacher," Emma replied. "My father, even if I never got to know him. My mother, who taught me to be strong. And you, Mr. Patterson, who taught me that being rich doesn't mean you have to be ruthless. Your father would be incredibly proud of you." Emma looked up at the sky, blinking back tears. "I hope so. I really do." She buckled Sarah into her car seat and was about to get in when a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the parking lot. David. He looked different, older, tired, defeated. Emma's security team immediately moved forward, but she held up her hand. "It's okay. Give us a moment." David approached slowly, keeping a respectful distance. "Emma, I saw the press conference on TV. The foundation is a beautiful idea. Thank you. And Sarah, she's beautiful. She looks like you." Emma didn't respond. "I know I have no right to ask," David said quietly, "but do you think maybe someday I could meet her? Not as a father. I know I gave up that right. Just to meet her. To tell her I'm sorry I wasn't there." Emma looked at this man who had broken her heart, who had abandoned her at her lowest point, who had only wanted her back when she was worth billions. And she felt nothing. No anger. No pain. No hatred. Just emptiness where love used to be. "David," she said gently, "I forgave you a long time ago, not because you deserved it, but because I deserved to be free from the anger. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. I know. Sarah has a good life," Emma continued. "She has a mother who loves her, grandparents who adore her, and more opportunities than most kids could dream of. She doesn't need someone who walked away from her before she was even born suddenly appearing because he regrets his choices." David's eyes filled with tears. "So that's it? I never get to know my daughter." "She's not your daughter," Emma said firmly but not unkindly. "You made that decision yourself. You signed away your rights. You chose Victoria over your family. Those were your choices, and choices have consequences. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. You're right. They do. And sometimes those mistakes cost you everything." Emma opened her car door. "Goodbye, David. I hope you find happiness someday. I really do. Just don't expect to find it with us." She got in the car and drove away, not looking back. In the rearview mirror, Sarah clapped her little hands and giggled. "That's right, baby girl," Emma said with a smile. "We're going home. To our home, with our family and our beautiful life." And as they drove off into the afternoon sun, Emma realized something wonderful. She was happy, truly, genuinely happy. Not because of the money, not because of revenge or justice or karma, But because she had learned the most important lesson of all, she didn't need anyone to validate her worth. She didn't need a man to complete her. She didn't need billions of dollars to prove she was valuable. She had always been enough exactly as she was. The money was just a bonus. Thank you so much for watching this story. Did you love Emma's journey from heartbreak to happiness? Then please subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Hit that like button, drop a comment about your favorite part of the story, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they are enough, just as they are. Your support means everything to us. We have more amazing stories coming soon. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you never miss an upload. Remember, your worth is not determined by what you have, but by who you are. Stay strong, stay beautiful, and we'll see you in the next story.